All right, welcome. So you open up your investment app, you see a green number, and you think, great, but hold on. What does that number actually mean? I mean, really? Did you beat inflation? Could you have done better somewhere else? Well, today we're going to cut right through all that noise. We're going to find the real return on your investment so you know for sure how hard your money is working for you.
So yeah, let's just start right there. You put your money in and you get some money out. Simple enough. But was it a small win, a huge success, or was it just kind of meh? Being able to tell the difference is absolutely the key to smart investing. And I promise, by the end of this, you'll know exactly how to do it.
And here's our game plan. First, we'll start with the super simple math. Then we'll uncover the two places your profit actually comes from. After that, we're going to talk percentages, why they're so important for comparing apples to apples. We'll even figure out the difference between real cash in your pocket and numbers on a screen. And finally, we'll land on the single best way to judge how your investment did over time. Okay, first things first. Let's just strip away all the confusing jargon and get right down to the absolute basics of what return even is. You know, at its heart, return is just this, the sale price minus the purchase price. That's it. So if you buy a share for $1,200 and you turn around and sell it for $1,500, your return is $300. It's a nice, simple, clean number, and it's the foundation for literally everything else we're going to talk about.
So that $300 is what we call your absolute return. But where did it come from? It turns out that profit isn't just one big blob of money. It actually flows from two totally different places, and you got to understand both.
The first source is the one everybody knows about, capital gains. That's just a fancy way of saying the profit you make because the share's price went up. But then there's the second source, dividends. That's when the company literally shares its profits directly with you, the shareholder. Your total return is always these two things added together, the price change plus any cash they handed you along the way. Now, this is where things get really interesting because it brings up a huge common mistake people make with dividends. You see a company announce a 200% dividend and your brain immediately thinks, wow, that's 200% of whatever the stock is trading for. Nope, that is almost never how it works. The real secret is this little thing called par value, or sometimes face value. It's an old-school accounting value, usually something small like 10. The dividend percentage gets applied to that number, not the big market price. So a 200% dividend on a par value of 10 is actually a 20 payout per share. This is a perfect example of why knowing the little details really, really matters. Okay, so knowing you made $300 is a great start, but it really doesn't tell you the whole story. To actually judge how well an investment did, especially when you're comparing it to other options, you have to start thinking in percentages. And here's exactly why. Think about it. Is making a 300 return better if you invested 500 or if you invested 50,000? See, the context is everything. Using a percentage, or what we call a yield, just levels the playing field so we can get a truly accurate comparison. Let's walk through an example to make this crystal clear. Let's say you bought 3,000 shares at 100 each, and then you sold them later for 150. First, we'll calculate the dividend yield. We just take the total dividend you received and divide it by what you originally paid. That gives us 1%. Next up, the capital gain yield. We take the profit from the price jump and divide that by the same initial investment, and that gives us a very nice 50%. And when we put those two pieces together, we get our total rate of return. In this case, that 1% from the dividends plus the 50% from the capital gains adds up to a grand total of 51%. Looking at it this way makes it so obvious where most of that profit really came from, doesn't it? All right, time for a really critical distinction. There is a huge difference between profit that's sitting in your bank account and profit that only exists on your computer screen. Let's break down when your gains really count. So, a realized gain is profit you've locked in. You've sold the investment, the cash is yours. This is the number that, the tax man cares about. An unrealized gain, on the other hand, is a paper profit. It's for an investment you're still holding. You can't spend it yet, but it's super important for tracking how you're doing and planning what to do next. You need to know both numbers. They just matter for different reasons. And that brings us to the final, and I think the most important part of all this. When an investment has its ups and downs over a few years, how do you find that one single number that tells you its true performance? Just look at this investment's journey. It's a total roller coaster, right? A great first year, then a little loss, a small recovery, then another dip. Now, if you just take the average of these numbers, you're going to get a misleading answer. Why? Because that minus 3% loss in year 2 wasn't on your original money. It was eating into the gains from year one. So how in the world do we account for that? Well, this is where we have to separate a simple average return from the much, much more powerful compound return. The average return is kind of like a blender. It just tosses all the numbers in and mashes them together. But the compound return, that's more like climbing a staircase. It understands that each new step you take depends on where the last step ended. It respects the actual journey your money went on.
And honestly, you don't have to take my word for it. This source material is crystal clear on this point. The compound rate of return is the gold standard. It gives you the single most accurate picture of how your investment actually grew over time, period. Now, I know what you're thinking. That formula looks a little intense, right? But trust me, it's really just 4 logical steps. And the real secret, the magic trick, is in step 1. We add the number 1 to each percentage. It's this brilliant little math hack. It turns a loss, like -3%, into a positive number, 0.97, which lets us multiply all the years together without the math falling apart. After that, we do a quick calculation to find the geometric mean, and then we just subtract that 1 we added at the beginning. And there you have it, your true annual rate. So for that roller coaster investment we looked at, after all those ups and downs, the true compound rate of return was actually 3.1% per year. That one single accurate number tells the real story. It smooths out all that craziness into one number that actually means something. So there you have it. We went all the way from a simple dollar figure to the compound rate of return, the absolute best measure of performance. We've pulled apart dividends and capital gains, and we've separated paper profits from real cash. So the only question left is, now that you have these tools, how are you going to look at your next investment? Thanks for watching.